I'm going to talk about medical sexism. Would you rather have a woman doctor or a man doctor? Many people today say that they would rather have a woman, to which I say, what is up with that? What am I, chopped liver? I can do anything they can do. And furthermore, in this politically correct world where we're not supposed to talk about difference, how can we say that one group is better than another? Well, but the surveys don't lie, and many people still would rather have a woman. So why is that? Well, maybe they're perceived to be more sensitive, or they'll take more time with you. But I think it might go deeper than that. I think we might have a void. We all sense a void that we're missing, and we think that women might be better able to fill that void. So let me try to explain. A few years ago, I was asked to research a topic, the changing face of medicine, women in a once male-dominated profession. I decided to ask a few women what they thought of the topic, so maybe I could gain a few different perspectives, maybe something I hadn't thought of. And what was surprising was the difference by generation. The young women, my children's age, thought it would be a boring topic. They said it's nothing new, it's ancient history. They really didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I guess the good news is that the younger generation don't feel any barriers to their professional life, which is a good thing. My mother's generation, of course, thought it would be a fabulous topic because they lived through the women's movement. It was part of dinner table conversations for years. Heated discussions about what a woman's role should be in society. My generation was a little different. I remember asking my first colleague what she thought of the topic, and she said, well, you know, women today don't have to give up their femininity like we did. And it was interesting to talk to them because they all said the same thing. They all had that feeling that they had to give up something that they shouldn't have, and they carried a little resentment. I think we can sense a little bit about what that might mean, that they were living in a man's world and it might have been sort of uncomfortable. But the more I thought about it, I thought, what does femininity mean? What does it mean to give up your femininity? What's the difference between masculinity and femininity? Is one better than another? Does one make for a better physician than another? And is there a discussion about difference that we need to have that political correctness wants to just shove under the rug? And so my research took me into the study of difference. And one of the first authors that I came across was Carol Gilligan. And she's talked about difference for a long time. She says that women speak in a different voice. It is as though we're almost hardwired differently. And my favorite story from her work is about some little boys playing a pickup game of baseball. And one little boy takes his third strike and he's out and he starts to cry. And the boys wait around for him to stop crying so they can carry on with their game. Gilligan suggests that if there's a girl around, she'll say something like, oh, come on, give him a second chance, give him another try. She sees the boy crying, wants to connect, and wants to heal, which of course drives the boys crazy because they're playing this game with masculine logic, and logic demands rules, and the rule is 3 strikes and you're out. And so she suggests that boys will sacrifice the feelings to save the rules, and the girls will sacrifice the rules to save the feelings. The truth is that I think we're all that little boy once in a while. We all need a second chance, sometimes. And sometimes we need to face the music and learn a lesson. But if we polarize ourselves and stay on one side of the fence, and we always give a second chance, we create dependency. And if we stay on the other side of the fence, we harden people's souls. If we never give them another chance, we harden their souls. And this is a problem. So what are some of these virtues that Carol talks about? Well, the masculine voice speaks in terms like autonomy, justice, and rights, sort of a rugged individualism that favors logic and rationality. And the feminine voice speaks in terms like relationship, care, compassion, more of a nurturing connection that favors intuition and emotion. Now, I don't know where we ever got the idea that girls didn't need autonomy or that boys didn't need to have relationship skills. I don't know why we had this divide. So obviously, if you stay on one side of the fence, you lose and don't have access to part of your humanity. But it's worse than that, because if you become too isolated and stay on one side of the fence, you can develop some very unhealthy distortions. The philosopher Ken Wilber calls these the bad boys and the bad girls. Now, I suppose sometimes being a little bit mischievous can be good for the soul, but there's not much to be admired with these bad boys and bad girls. You see, when healthy virtues become distorted, you can have significant psychopathology. So if you have a healthy virtue like autonomy, it can become alienation. Strength and freedom can become domination. And independence can become a morbid fear of relationship. This is a serious problem. And on the other side, if you become too feminine, instead of being in a relationship, you can become lost in a relationship. Instead of a healthy self in communion with others, you become pathologically fused. I suggest to you that a great deal of psychopathology and our mental illness can be seen as a manifestation of these unhealthy virtues, unhealthy distortions of the masculine and feminine virtues. I'll give you another example. The psychotherapist Brené Brown has one of the most popular TED Talks of all time with over 8 million hits. She talks about the power of vulnerability, and she talks about these women, or people I should say, bad girls with poor connection, okay? So why didn't they connect? Why couldn't they have that feminine connection? She discovered that healthy people with a healthy sense of self had a strong enough identity that they could become vulnerable. And when they could become vulnerable, they could be authentic, let their hair down, and make a healthy connection. But I ask you, was she not describing healthy masculine autonomy? So when you have a healthy enough self that is strong enough to be vulnerable, not fragile, but strong enough to be vulnerable, that then you can connect. And after you have connected, you now have the strength to go back out into the world and take risks and develop an even stronger identity, which allows you to be vulnerable and reconnect again. And you go back and forth between these healthy virtues of the masculine and feminine and evolve and develop into a healthy psyche. And if you don't do that, if you fail to do that, stay too much on one side or the other, you create a void. And it is exactly that void that I think we experience today in medicine. Medicine is hyper-masculine. I am spending most of my time with my face buried in a computer screen instead of connecting with my patients. And the information that I do get from my patients is somehow supposed to fit into these checkboxes in an electronic record, and they just don't fit very well. We've taken our bodies and broken them down into their component systems instead of looking at the interrelationships that they have. We have traded in connection for hyper-rationality. We think that we can measure quality with things like infection rates and cholesterol levels instead of looking toward wellness as a whole. I think we're starved for the feminine, and I think that is why we are looking for women doctors. So how do we get out of this problem? Well, first of all, I think we have to bring difference out from under the rug and talk about it and have a healthy discussion about masculine and feminine virtues. And once we do that, I think we will all be better off. But an interesting question then is, will we have it all? This article from The Atlantic last summer was the most widely read article in their magazine of all time. Can you have it all? It's obviously a popular topic. But I ask you, do you think as I, as a man, never had to make a choice between my family and my career? How much time to spend at the office versus making a soccer game? How many hospital committees that I could serve on that might boost my ego versus being at the soccer practices? And you do need to be at the practices, right? With their trials and tribulations and their setbacks. It's important that you're there for them. And do you not think that I never had to make a choice how much time to spend with the guys? How much time to spend on the golf course recharging my masculine batteries so that I could go back and reconnect with my family and my patients? Having it all is a masculine myth. It is a myth that suggests that the masculine virtues of autonomy and independence and freedom are much more important than the feminine values like relationship and compassion and vulnerability. It suggests that if you take that right mix of masculine virtues and ignore some others and use your masculine logic, that you might somehow be able to solve the riddle and have it all. But you can't have it all. The goal is to be whole. I'm asking you to think about embracing all of those virtues, that we need all of those virtues, not just some. The Eastern cultures have been able to deal with these dualities much better than we have. They have long been able to appreciate the dualities of the yin and yang, creativity and destruction, the male and the female. This is just one of the many artistic attempts to try to depict this duality as the union of Shiva and Shakti. This type of thinking allows us to embrace our masculine and feminine values and virtues simultaneously. It resists the polarization that creates those bad boys, bad girls, and incompleteness. I think that polarization is killing our medicine. I think it's killing our mental health. And I think that you could probably add a few other things to that list. Polarization is not helping us. I'm asking you to think about embracing all of these things. Autonomy, justice, and rights, responsibility, logic, relationship, care, compassion, vulnerability, connection, beauty. I think that this little guy needs all of those things. He needs to be taught to have a balance between them and to respect them all and to ultimately cherish those differences. We all do. Thank you.